Hello, Bastard viewers. Winkers here, professional miserable person, and cardboard bastard. We are living in an interesting time for Path of Exile. I think everyone knows that. We've gotten our second round of improvements. This one was much better than the first. Let's go over it real quick because a lot needs to be said. Rarity bonuses are kind of being lampooned by the community, but I think once you see the whole picture of what they're going for, this is more important than it seems. Rarity buffed. Arch Nemesis mods now increase the loot even more, which is good because for how difficult they are, they really need to be doing more. I think they also still need to be toned down in difficulty. I think this is a good first step. Let me get that out of the way first. They need to do more yet. But honestly, I think we're a lot closer than people are giving them credit for. Map bosses give much better loot. I have playtested all of this. I've experienced it. That's why the video is coming now and not earlier. Things feel a lot better. The 25% global loot buff is actually kind of a bigger deal than I think people are giving credit for, because this is global. Those big heist chests or big currency chests in a late lake or just currency elsewhere, anywhere, 25% increase. It's actually it's pretty substantial. The harvest changes are okay. This is one thing I think they really need to keep going on. We'll get to that in a moment. And they've significantly improved the rewards in the lake again, which was also, again, I say, this is coming. It's kind of okay to do the lake now. The fact that it's going to keep going might make this a lot of fun. We're going to see. They're also looking into tainted currency, and that's another one that's a huge outlier. And if they can get that right, I think we're in a good spot. Really, they need to go back to the pre-nerf state. I don't know what to say to them. This one especially, it's kind of weird that they're doubling down. But let's talk about Reddit's take on a lot of this real quick, and then how I feel about it, and how some other people feel about it, for that matter. First thing I want to bring up is Neversink. Neversink posted a wonderful Twitter thread explaining how he feels about things. It's quite long, but it's also very good. It's very important. Kind of hard to link to a Twitter thread, so I'm just going to go over it here in the video in full. As he says here, I've been observing the developments, blah, 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 and Reddit drama. And this is an important thing, and honestly, a lot of what he says here harkens back to what I feel like I've been saying, and that's that communications on both sides is troublesome. He talks about Magic Find being weak, Arch Nemesis still being a problem, and some league mechanics being poor, and just general rewards being low. Makes a very sobering comment about how the game is fluid, and it has to be changing, which, important, fair remark. He does take a shot at Reddit, which, I mean, fair enough. There is a lot of hyperbole going on in Reddit right now, and some of the theories are kind of childish. It really, people trying to, it's not so much trying to, the issue is it feels like a lot of people are committed to the idea that GGG has become the bad guy, and it's almost like proving that is more important than observing what's happening with the game and making decisions based on that. Now, kind of summarize this. He's talking about how GGG targets concepts and what that means for the game, and how they've kind of targeted concepts here with the loot rework. And, of course, the biggest thing about communication that gets brought up is that they really didn't communicate this, right? They didn't talk about it. The end result, though, if you are mapping, Alk and Go, running your mechanics, doing things as, I want to say, probably 90% of the player base does, at this point, you are not hurting very much. You are actually probably very close to what you were getting before. Sounds hyperbolic in its own, especially with the narrative the way it is, but honestly, that's the truth. I've played it, I've tested it. It's really not very different anymore. As Harvest improves, as other league mechanics get improved, as long as they keep doing it, things are going to get very, very good pretty quickly. Which kind of brings up the point of the outliers that are brought up by him specifically. Arch Nemesis is a little too tuned in certain ways. I think right here specifically, players can encounter monsters with 4x damage stats or 4x defensive stats. And sometimes, depending on your build, a mod can be both, which is very dangerous. And when they stack in certain ways, yeah, it becomes incredibly difficult to deal with for certain builds. I would say even every build, right? There's always an Arch Nemesis combo that will ruin your build, which is a big problem right now. Here's the twist, and I think the important part, the sobering thoughts of someone who is very in tune with the economy. They like what GGG is doing, and they make a great point about this. The game before, the economy was kind of dominated by the top end. You had too many items that would drop and have zero value, and that's kind of going to change a little bit. That's why the divine changes were made. That's why unique drops were rebalanced so much and why they're focusing so much on buffing them at the same time. They're really trying to get to that point again where something like a brass dome isn't just a 30C unique. Because when you think about how impactful that unique can be on a build and what its rarity tier is, it's kind of insane that it's been as cheap as it is. I was very surprised last league when I saw how cheap it was. I was like, I didn't recommend it in my original build guide right away because I thought it would be too hard to get. And now it's like actually what I expected it to be. And that's fine, honestly. Most builds can clear well enough without it. Of course, again, Arch Nemesis is very difficult in top tier maps. And you can't really design the game with its difficulty around people needing a brass dome if it's going to be this hard to get. So there's still some stuff that needs to be done, but I think Neverseek does a great job kind of just illustrating that we got to communicate directly and clearly without hyperbole. This is very important. You have to tell them what's wrong. You can't just go too far with the idea that they're going to give you 30% of what you demand, and that's what you're going to get. Because Grinding Gear games, they've proven time and again, they're very consistent in what they do. Hyperbole is just going to drive them to ignore your comments. We got to avoid that. We have to be trustworthy to them, and at the same time, they got to be more trustworthy to us because they excluded a lot of things. It's really difficult. You know? Additionally, he does bring up Harvest, and this is a big one. Harvest just isn't quite good enough. We lost too much of the punch from the crafting, and we lost some crafts that were very important for making items happen. And the crafting scene is on life support right now. There is no copium. They are out of copium, and they're like, oh, we're just not going to be able to make good items anymore. And that's kind of an issue because people like that was the one thing that Harvest really revealed about the game was that a certain amount of determinism was really good. It gave people something to look forward to, and we kind of need that. So, let's talk about the other 90%, or the other 10% rather, of people who are feeling these changes in a much more significant way. Map juicing is in a really bad spot right now. But I don't think it's necessarily in a bad spot because it's bad. I think it's in a bad spot because the economy itself hasn't really shifted to the new reality that we're living in. And that's that certain items are going to be much more expensive. Just how it is. But as global currency rates being increased kind of pump more juice into the economy, people who juice their maps are going to find that the stuff they drop is going to sell more readily and probably sell for a bit more because the quantity of it out there is still very limited. But the amount of money people have is going up. And this isn't a bad thing because honestly, the odds of you, the regular player, getting a drop that's exciting is going up because of this. It is. It's going up a lot. I do worry slightly that juicing is still in too poor a state, but that's kind of difficult to say because they have buffed a lot of things with Arch Nemesis monsters. And juicing is still one of the better ways to get more rare monsters into your map. So it's very possible things are going to turn around pretty quickly. Anyway, I'm enjoying the game. I'm a little reluctant to say that because I know there's going to be people out there who are like, oh, wow, look at you immediately roll over for it. But honestly, if you play the game in a very standard way, you're not suffering nearly as much anymore. I think the places that are the biggest issues going forward that really need to be fixed yet are people in solo self-found and people in the base game who are just kind of lost without ways to improve their characters because they've kind of hit places that were very defining in the game's landscape. The harvest crafts were a big deal. I mean, I honestly, the harvest crafts were everything, right? Those harvest crafts held the game up in a big way. And it was important, and you could tell it was important because even the baseline harvest was a very powerful mechanic back then. And even if you yourself don't harvest, a lot of the items you'd buy from people were probably made in harvest. And that's very important. It's got to be fixed on some level. There's got to be that little bit of determinism left for people to, force an item, even if it's expensive, even if it takes a lot of time. It should be expensive and take time, right? That's how the game works. Grinding Gear games. I think once that's done, we're good. I think we're coasting, we're smooth, and the game is probably in a healthier spot going forward. But again, yes, the three big things to go after: fixed tainted currency and harvest, and other league mechanics that are kind of falling by the wayside because of these changes. Give us back some of that determinism in crafting so that people can actually push towards an item they want and make it happen, and tone down the Arch Nemesis at the top end. Those ultra death combos they're tougher than pinnacle bosses sometimes. That's really what it is. They have so much goddamn health. They have so much goddamn defense. What are you supposed to do? Especially if the mods directly counter your build, Lightning Conduit's like the most broken skill ever, but if you roll a double lightning mod in Sentinel, congratulations, your skill that's completely overtuned does no damage. That's pretty bad. That's got to be fixed. And there's just a lot of incoming damage from that as well. Specifically, I'd love to see the ground degens toned down. Honestly, they're very snappy. They get you so quickly. It's like I might as well be getting hit. But yeah, that's all. Another video if we get more improvements. Another video if we don't get more improvements, and that one will be very negative. Love to hear what everyone thinks after trying out these changes, assuming they have tried out the changes. I hope you're not just getting upset about these without trying them, because in order to be objective, you have to look into this stuff yourself. And so far from what I've seen, it's a very playable game. I'm playing again.